Die Hard 5, A Good Day to Die Hard. So, in my review of Die Hard 4, I gave my history with the Die Hard franchise, and I'll link to that video in the description down below, but I'll try to recap briefly. The Die Hard film series, at least the first three films, are very influential with men of my generation, and yet I don't think I've ever seen any of them in their entirety. When I was young, my parents would not let me watch them. I had very conservative parents. Um, when I got into my teens, they were frequently replayed on cable, especially the first Die Hard. And I must have tuned into it halfway, I don't know how many times during the mid 90s, but never managed to catch it from start to finish. Same with living in the college dormitories in the 90s. The first three Die Hard movies were constantly being played, and I would go into somebody's room and they'd have the Die Hard movies on, and I'd sit down and watch it for a little bit. But I never saw any of the movies from start to finish, although the first two, especially, I'd seen so many clips of that I could probably reconstruct most of the movie. Which is a long way of saying I was never a huge fan of this movie series. I never saw it during my influential years. I never really got into it later. I've seen enough of it, parts of it, but I don't consider myself a diehard fan. So when this movie Die Hard 5 came out, it got absolutely terrible reviews. Fans of the series were furious. As they had been with Die Hard 4, I think the principal complaint in both movies was that Die Hard, the original, was supposed to be a gritty, semi realistic action film. I mean, there were some stunts that were maybe don't try them at home, kids, or maybe something that ordinary people would have a difficult time doing. But the idea was it was Bruce Willis's character was a character who kind of felt every jump and every punch and got progressively more beat up as the movie went on, and you felt his pain along with him, as he was just kind of an ordinary guy struggling in this overwhelming situation. I mean, he was a cop, but he was like an ordinary cop. He was a cop, right? Am I remembering that right? The Die Hards 4 and 5 have removed that pseudo realistic element, and it's just pure over the top action movie carnage. I've seen some upset fans compare it to like a Looney Tunes cartoon in terms of its defiance of gravity and how the hero can bounce off of anything and not get hurt. Um, and yeah, you've got to know that going into it. Die Hard 5 is not really in the spirit of the first Die Hard movie so much as it is just another mindless action movie. Um, I went to see it in the theaters when it came out in 2013, and I remember waiting in line to buy tickets with several friends. And the only reason I saw this movie in the first place is because a bunch of friends wanted to go to it, and it was just a night out. And we were standing there in line, and somebody said, you know, this movie has gotten absolutely terrible reviews. And then they just stopped. And the implication was, are we sure we want to waste 2 hours of our lives on it? Should we turn back before it's too late? But we all kind of shrugged it off, and we went in and watched the movie, and we had an okay time. As we were leaving the theater, one of my friends said, at least it wasn't boring. And those are my thoughts exactly. There's nothing worse than a boring movie. If it's not boring, I'm willing to forgive a lot of other sins. And this movie had a lot of faults. I'll get to that in a minute. I'm not sure I would say it was a good movie, but it was passably entertaining. This is, I said of Die Hard 4 that Die Hard 4 was a classic popcorn movie in the sense that as long as you have like something to eat, you're filling your face with sugar and salt and all sorts of junk food. And the images on screen are just there to distract you while you're stuffing your face. Uh, then it's an all right movie. And Die Hard 5 is the same way. Um, I had a big thing of popcorn, a big thing of Coke, and Coca Cola, and I was eating the salty popcorn and drinking the sweet Coca Cola, and just enjoying the action on the screen. Now, my about halfway through, I did finish my snacks, and then the movie became a little bit less tolerable, but it was still mostly entertaining. So there's a lot of ridiculous action scenes that really don't make logical sense, and don't make logical sense in terms of the who's shooting at who, when, where, why, what the characters are doing, where they run to. The physics don't always make sense, but it's entertaining. And again, I know the true Die Hard fans are upset about this, but I was never a true Die Hard fan. The only thing that really left me scratching my head was just how bad the jokes were in this movie. So they tried to infuse it with a lot of jokes, with a lot of humor. And it was just not funny at all. And I don't know why they didn't hire somebody to go through and add some better jokes or something. How much could that have cost? I mean, the amount of money they spent on the action sequences. Um, you think they could afford a joke writer? I was watching this in the theater, and nobody laughed at any of the jokes. It was just silence at all of the jokes. Now, granted, I did see this in a foreign country. I was in Cambodia, but it was subtitled for the local audience. There were a number of other foreigners in the theaters like us. Yeah, just nobody was laughing at the jokes. The singing Russian taxi driver in particular, I thought was very strange. Like who thought that was a good idea? That did not work at all. And I can see maybe in the brainstorming phase when they're writing the script, but surely somebody must have looked at the, what do they call it? They call it the dailies, right? Somebody must have looked at it in post production or during filming, and why didn't anyone say this wasn't working? Anyways, what was impressive is how much money they spent on the action sequences. So there's a scene on the highway where there's a car chase, and it ends up with just a huge car wreck and high speed chase. And I'm looking at that and I'm seeing all the cars go flying. And I don't think it was all CGI. I think there were some real cars getting tossed around and turned over and everything. And I thought, this could not have been cheap to film. They must have spent a lot of money on this. And then it just becomes another average action movie, totally forgettable. And even at the time when it was released, it was not a big hit. It was regarded as kind of a mid-tier action movie, forgettable even at the time. So I don't know. It just got me thinking a little bit about the film industry and just how much it costs to make a bad movie. Although I can't help but think if I had seen this movie when I was 8 years old, it would have absolutely blown me away. I mean, this movie wouldn't have been around when I was 8 years old because they didn't make action scenes that intense back then. But the standards have changed. So where the stuff that would have completely blown away audiences in the 1980s is just now a forgettable action movie. I do have a little bit of a confession to make. I've been complaining about how this is just a dumb action movie, but minor spoiler alert. In the course of this movie, there are three plot twists. And each plot twist took me completely off guard. I was not expecting them. And maybe that's because I just turned my mind off and I was expecting a dumb action movie. And then all of a sudden there's a plot twist. And I was like, ooh, wasn't expecting that. And then we have another plot twist. And I was like, oh, I didn't know they were going to go for two. And the third one, each one caught me. So credit to where the credit is due. The plot twists caught me off guard each time. And the climax of the movie, again, spoiler alert, takes place in Chernobyl. Now, this movie takes place in Russia. I guess Chernobyl is technically in the Ukraine, isn't it? Although in my mind, I always associate with Chernobyl with the Soviet Union. But anyways, so the movie is kind of all about all the stereotypes about Russia, and including the Soviet Union, former Soviet Union. We include Chernobyl. So of course it ends up in Chernobyl, and the first few scenes when they're walking through this abandoned ghost town of Chernobyl just made me think how strange that whole Chernobyl thing is, because it seemed like a science fiction thing. But it's not science fiction, huh? The whole town of Chernobyl really just was completely abandoned, right? I don't know. I hate to get all my information about Chernobyl from a Hollywood movie. So if anyone out there wants to critique Die Hard 5's depiction of Chernobyl, let me know. But I thought it was a suitable creepy atmosphere for the climax of the film. And then it was just all the more mind blowing to think that's real. I'm not sure they filmed it actually on location in Chernobyl. They probably couldn't. But the idea of Chernobyl is real. There really is an abandoned town Chernobyl that's just been abandoned for the last 30 or 40 years, and nature has kind of semi taken over it. And I don't know. It made me want to go home and look up pictures of modern day Chernobyl, or look up Chernobyl on Wikipedia. I just thought it was something interesting. So the movie gets one extra point for that. Now, once they do get into Chernobyl, it just degenerates into a dumb action sequence that doesn't make a lot of sense, but it gets an extra point for the cool setting. All right, I'm going to leave it there. If you saw Die Hard 5, let me know what you thought of it.